G'day guys, it's Steve from the 21st Century Physio podcast here, and I'm really excited today. We've got the ultimate 21st Century Physio today, the ultimate physio himself, Nick Schuster. Not only has this man got his own successful practice, he's got his own business coaching business, and he's also got a really great book that I highly recommend you get out there and check. Today he's going to go through some key business metrics that you can implement into your practice and start monitoring tomorrow. He's got some great tips about how to make your team the ultimate physios and get them up to scratch from new graduates. And he's also got some great team bonding tips to build a successful culture in your practice. All right, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. Here's Nick. All right, welcome, Nick. Really excited to have you on the podcast here today. I'm sure everyone's really looking forward to you helping bring their practices into the 21st century, being the ultimate physio, being the man who is transforming practices, right around the world. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, I'm really privileged to be here. I love what you're doing. And yeah, we're going to talk about things that we're both very passionate about. People need a lot of help with. People want new ideas and new concepts to run with, and let's give people as much value as we can today.
Fantastic, mate. That's exciting. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming the ultimate physio. Obviously, a lot of learning has happened over your career, I imagine, to get to this point now where you're getting out there and you're taking on the world and helping people transform their practices and their lives.
Yeah, so you ever heard that saying, how long does it take to build an overnight success?
Yep.
This is my 15th year as a physio. I wanted to go into medicine, but it was too hard to get into in the 90s. I chose physio. I liked helping people and I liked solving problems. I went through university here in Brisbane. My first ever interview in a hospital, I walked out of it because I didn't really like what they had to offer. And there was a practice for sale and I saw a flyer at uni and I nabbed it and it was already doing half a day a week. I bought this practice and I didn't really know what I was doing, like most people. I think my biggest mistake was I ran it myself for 5 years and I'd answer the phones and I'd be treating someone and the phone would ring and I'd be like, what do I do? Do I keep treating the person? Do I answer the phone? I was doing 7 till 7 every day, Saturdays, and then I'd do the bookwork on a Saturday afternoon. And then something big came along and changed me, which is the GFC. So I lost a lot of money in the GFC in an investment scam. It made me dissatisfied with two things, Steve. And number one, I didn't really know how to run a business. And I felt like I was helping most people, but the people with the most severe, persistent pain and chronic conditions that were medical as well as musculoskeletal, I felt like I was letting those guys down. Often early in your physio journey, most people are going to get better with or without our intervention. But when you make people worse and you don't know why that's happening, it sets a few things off in your head. And that made me think, well, what the hell's going on here? So my really hardcore learning journey probably started in about 06, 07, where I found some mentors in the physio world and some mentors in the business world. And I just went really hard. Learned as much as I could, and I'm still very much in that phase. I think I've come to the point in my learning journey where I'm comfortable. I don't know everything, Steve, and there's so much more that I have to learn and know, so I don't really profess myself to be an expert. But I've got areas that I'm extremely passionate about, which include leadership, team training, personal development from a business perspective. From a clinical perspective, I like the chronic pain caseload, people with a lot of persistent severe pain, psychological issues. I like the harder the better. Our clinic attracts all of the people in our local region who've been everywhere else and nothing's really worked for them. So I run a clinic 45 minutes north of Brisbane. We've got a team of 14 people. We help about 300 clients a week. And mate, this is my life. I've got a 9-month-old baby at home and I try and balance my time between about 30 hours in the clinic and the rest of my time at home. And probably 2 hours a day on the Ultimate Physio Facebook group, just facilitating learning there, answering questions and producing content for a whole load of really keen clinic owners. Yeah.
I think you touched on something really pertinent there, and that's you don't have to know everything. I think you come out of university, and I think I see a lot of new graduates come out now, and I get emails, 2 or 3 emails a week from new graduates coming out, and should I go back and study physio? Should I go back and study osteo? Do I need to go and do strength and conditioning? Should I open my own practice? I think once you realise, that you don't need to know everything, and you can actually start to pursue some of those passions, I think that can be, quite liberating, really free you up through your career and give you a lot more enjoyment.
And I think the benefit, Steve, of just getting out there and working and having mentors who you're working with or under, or even if you're by yourself, just someone who's been there and done that, is the problems that you see and the problems that you enjoy treating, and some of the bigger issues that you see tend to help drive you as to your areas of specialty. And that's what I find with a lot of the clinic owners and physios that I speak to and that I mentor, is the problems they're solving come from some deficiency that they've faced throughout their career or identified in themselves or in the caseload that they're treating, and wanting to fix that problem. So I see a lot of very passionate, very driven people in the physio profession, but I reckon, this is another view of mine, I reckon we all need to give ourselves a bit of a break. There's mentally, you can't know everything, and knowledge itself doesn't equal results, as you would know yourself. I feel like we've got to be more balanced in what we're offering as well, rather than just all book knowledge. Another one of my views anyway.
Definitely. And so you mentioned, you had some good business mentors and good, physio mentors going up. Who were some of the people who had a big, influence on you and where you've ended up today?
So I'd say, so early on, I went to University of Queensland in Brisbane, and my physio university was an interesting experience because I felt like we got boxed into a very narrow area of knowledge, which was local muscle control, and that was a bit of a fashion in Australia in that era of mid 90s to about mid 2000s. So I came out of my degree not particularly inspired, and this probably made me stay by myself for a little bit too long.
You would have had an amazing TA though.
Oh, mate, everyone had better TAs. But people were walking out of there no better, and that made me establish the connection. Okay, well, we can make TA stronger, but that doesn't produce a result. So this really confused me early on, because when you're told that a technique or a method is the be-all and end-all, and it doesn't work like that in clinical practice, my God, it makes you rack your brain. So I would say the first guy that I found who really helped to upskill me was Michael Ridgway, who's the creator of the Ridgway method in Brisbane. And where I feel he really helped me was the specificity and sensitivity of being able to do a whole body assessment. So, Michael's practices are in some way in the physio world quite controversial, because he's treating remotely for, if you've got a sore shoulder, he might be treating your leg on the right side. If the shoulder's on the left, it's, it can be seen as quite out there. But what I learned from Michael, Steve, was to assess the whole body, to be quite sensitive in the assessment, both in observation, movement, and palpation. So I really liked what Michael had to offer there. And the second thing that Michael taught me was to value myself. And I think if you're not familiar with Michael Ridgway's work, the least that you can achieve by learning some of his methods is to value what you offer in a consultation as a physio, because this is something early in your journey that you'll have a lot of trouble with. I'd say the next really powerful mentor for me was David Butler. So when on learning Michael's stuff, I then found my deficiency was, okay, well, manually I'm getting better. And most physios early in their career, manually, you are quite weak, obviously. And what David taught me was the power of words. So, I don't think there are many better communicators in physio than David Butler. And the way that he makes people feel comfortable, he uses humour. He's got a myriad of expertise behind the scene, and then when he diffuses people and makes them just feel comfortable, the results can really flow from there. And that probably brings me into one of my more recent mentors, who's Peter O'Sullivan. And I think Peter's done a great job at putting everything together. And as you would love, Steve, very evidence-based. So everything he says, he goes and studies at Curtin University with his team. I love the fact that he's disproving, old things like the way you lift and the fact that you need to sit up straight. And I suppose nothing's off limits for Peter. And again, he's a real, when you watch him do a consultation, just the way that he engages that person, it's quite remarkable, really. So I tend to like the showmen and women of the physio world. I love the experience of a consultation and the mind shift you can achieve in a client. So they're the type of people that really impress me.
Yeah, I think you're right. As you said, you got to be entertaining, I guess, and be able to transfer that message not only as an educator but also as a physiotherapist yourself. If you can't get that message across to someone, then it doesn't matter how good that message is or how good the stuff you're giving them is. If you're not getting that point across, you're not going to get the results.
Yep. Know, like, trust, mate. First, they got to know you.
Yep.
And if your patient doesn't like you, they're not going to get to trust. So you got to have like.
Yep.
I know it might sound like it's not evidence-based or objective, but geez, if you don't have it, people won't come back. Like, I listened to a really good, actually, it was an article I read by Chris Worsfold over in England, and he was saying, I went too far towards evidence-based physio and my people weren't coming back, and so I couldn't help them for the second time. And yeah, I absolutely love that.
And I think there's some good research coming out now showing that as well. One of the big factors whether a patient's going to have a good long-term outcome or not is whether they actually adhere to their program. But number one, do they like the physio or the person that they're working with? So it's a massive thing. And something I think you come out of university, I think you touched on before, you have some good base knowledge, some good base skills, maybe manually and exercise prescription-wise you're a little bit lacking. But the number one thing I think that you don't get taught is actually how to manage patients and treat the individual, not treat that magic muscle.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think I was just talking to one of my young physios the other day about this concept, Steve. I'll throw this at you. As a mature physio, someone who's had, say, more than 5 years of expertise, which I think they call, you're an expert after 5 years or 10,000 hours. I think back to when I was a young physio, and I think about how hard I actually had to think during the consultation to determine what I'm going to do with this person. That did take away from my ability to actually engage with the patient. And when I try and put myself in the shoes of a young physio, when you're young, you have to think so hard about how you're actually going to manage that patient. And you might not even look them in the eye. You might not even acknowledge something important that they say. Like, when they say important stuff, you can jump on it and makes it so easy. But early on, that's a real struggle. I reckon it takes a good 2 years to even get comfortable with performing a consultation. So for you young physios out there, if you're not smashing it at 1 year or 2 years, don't worry. Like, you can't expect yourself to. It's like we can't expect people to get better in a week. They're coming to you for a 5-year problem.
So I guess, obviously, a lot of us hire new graduates in our practices out there. What are some things you think we can do to, upskill and sort of give some of these skills to young graduates coming out who maybe from the university system haven't been, taught these things? What's some things you do with your young graduates and to mentor them in their practice?
So the whole Ultimate.Physio concept was born out of how I mentored grads in my clinic, Steve. So I'll start with talking about a few of their problems and their challenges. So the new graduate in a consultation, say if we break a consultation into the interview, physical examination, treatment, and then there's this scary last bit, which is the recommendations and the plan. So, a grad, their skills, very good at listening, great at asking questions. Physical examination, pretty reasonable, and they've got the latest techniques, even probably more so than someone like me. Treatment, reasonable, but when it gets to giving a person a recommendation, like, one of the situations that I see is they just don't know, they've never seen the condition before. You can't plan out what you're going to do if you've never seen someone with this problem. I remember the first time I saw someone with neck pain, I was like, what the hell do I do here? I was scared. I didn't know what to plan for them. So one of the first tools I get with my grads, so I mentor them clinically and I mentor them behaviourally. So if we're talking clinical, I've got this matrix that I use where I get them to detail the main body parts they're going to see. They're going to see neck, thoracic, lower back, knee, foot, arm. And what I get them to do is write down in this quadrant. On one side, we've got acute pain, and the other side, we've got chronic pain, so how long they've had the condition. And on the other axis, we've got very severe pain down to mild pain. And I get them to, for the assessment, for the treatment, for their exercise plan, I get them to fill in the blanks. So with all the techniques that they already have, Steve, they know what their tool belt could be for a chronic patient with severe pain. So you're not going to do, repetitive movements with that person. For someone who has acute pain and it's not severe, you can do explosive, high level strengthening work. So I get the grad to fill in the boxes. And obviously, as their skill set improves, the boxes thicken up, and they just get more things in their tool belt. So clinically, we need to make sure at the start they've got a base level of competency, and then behaviourally, what I'm really going into is a lot of their beliefs, a lot of their limiting beliefs. So I go really hardcore on this, and probably harder than anyone I know in my industry. I've got a specific assessment process I go through where we determine what the belief is, we determine where it came from, we go through a process of changing that belief, which is finding more examples of where it's not true than where it's true. And then over time, that belief you destroy it. It becomes eroded. So I'll give you an example. A graduate that was working in my clinic, he was a really personable young guy, quite introverted, and he had this belief that he wasn't good at meeting new people. And this physio was seeing 20 new clients a week. So he's doing a good job with these guys, but he doesn't think he's good at meeting new people. What do you reckon's going on in his head there? So we go about changing that belief, which I reckon took 3 to 6 months. Suddenly his recommendations are heaps better. He's more confident. And you can't throw systems at that guy without addressing that belief. You throw a system at him, he gets confused. He doesn't know, I'm not sure why it works with some people and not others.
And they start second guessing themselves from our experience as well. If you start to throw some of those KPIs at them when they don't actually understand the process behind it and the why, I guess, both for themselves, but also for the patient, most importantly.
Yeah, and I think, so what that looks like is, as physios go further into their journey, I've picked like this spot between about 2 and 5 years post-graduation where people often doubt being in the physio profession. They might feel like, okay, well, I'm getting these people better, but I'm just not getting them past a certain stage. And they can also feel a little bit of early career dissatisfaction. I know I did myself. And the way that I've helped young physios get around that is the head coaching, is the beliefs and behavioural coaching to find out, well, what are the things that you've taken from your school and your university education that aren't now relevant because you're a professional? So, how hard is it for a 21-year-old to come out and be giving people 3 or 4 times their age medical advice? It's a big step in our career, and I reckon it's a step that's very poorly managed from a behavioural perspective.
And do you think the universities set the young graduates up well to get into private practice?
Okay. How hard do you want me to go on this topic, mate?
I'll go as hard as you like.
So I'll give you a little bit of background. Physio evolved from a hospital setting. I would even say 30 years ago, the bulk of physios trained were going to work in hospitals. What universities need to realise now, mate, is 2/3 of people who graduate work in private practice. I don't believe that the courses in many universities in Australia, some yes, but the bulk of the universities have not adapted to teach exactly what you mentioned at the start, how to manage a patient. Mate, they don't teach you anything about private practice. So I lecture at my local uni. I just do one guest lecture a year. And I surveyed 4th year clinic students it was about September. So, in 6 months, they were going to be working. 2/3 of them would not complete a private practice placement in their final year. Does that just scare the hell out of you like it scares the hell out of me?
It definitely does, and I've seen the effects of it too. We've recently just hired a physiotherapist and an osteopath, sort of new graduate. The osteopath comes out having seen over 200 patients and spent 10 hours a week in a private practice setting, compared to the physiotherapist who had never seen a knee before. He'd never seen a patient with a knee injury. He'd seen 7 patients in a private practice type setting through his whole 4 years of university. So it's just a huge difference between the graduates coming out of universities too. And
based on what you just said, all I tend to hear from the universities is excuses. That a lot of universities that I've spoken to are actually, they're concerned about contacting local private practices for the fact that we might knock them back and say, well, I don't want a student. And realistically, one thing we all need is we all need our future workforce. And I'm trying to facilitate with our local university and on a bigger scale as well, this connection between clinic owners and universities to take these students, because it doesn't have to be hard, especially in the age of mass communication on Facebook. I could put a post up on Ultimate.Physio. Who wants to take 10 students from this location, and I'd be fairly sure they'd be snapped up by the end of the day, to be honest. So I think until the success of a university is measured by the employability of its graduates, I think this problem will remain. Something will swing, Steve, where university funding may eventually be linked to the employability of the graduates from that uni, and that's when they're going to pull their finger out and say, we're going to have to do something about this.
Yep, I think you're 100% right there. I think it is changing slowly. I know there's definitely some programs in place, and we have been recently approached to be part of a pilot program for one of the universities down in Victoria for this. So hopefully that's a sign that things are moving in the right direction. But I think you're right. I think it does go back historical. I think you mentioned before that traditionally physiotherapists did work in hospitals. So I think a lot of the training has evolved that way. But as you said, we need to evolve with the times. And obviously the last 10 years, physio's probably changed more than in any time before that. I think that would be pretty fair to say. Over the last 10 years, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen? And then what do you think are going to be some of the biggest changes that we see over the next 10 years in physiotherapy? Where do you think physiotherapy will be in 10 years' time?
So I wrote a blog a little while back, Steve, that's called The Future of Physio. So if you look at the traditional medical model, you've got what I'd call a gatekeeper model, which is someone's in pain or they're injured, and what do? They would go and see their GP. And I believe in a lot of other countries it's still like this, where the GP then determines where the person goes for care. So, if the GP's had good experiences with physios, osteopaths, chiropractors, EPs, GP will choose. Patient does exactly what the GP tells them to because they've got that great relationship. Now, I think what we have done as physios really well is we've adapted that model because we are now true bona fide first contact practitioners. And so what that looks like for me is as GPs spend less time with patients, I believe they're shooting themselves in the foot from a marketing perspective because, I would say if I take a complex patient in my clinic who's got a pathway where they see GPs, specialists, physios, massage therapists and personal trainers, I think the two tightest relationships there with the patient are the physio and the PT. Simply from the fact that the patient spends the most time with both of us and we educate them and they get a lot of information from us. So where will physio be in 10 years? Effectively, the person's going to be able to choose wherever they want to go. Realistically, when someone has a condition now, they can get so much information so quickly, and they don't go to their GP when they're injured anymore, do they? The number of people I treat who say, I just came straight to you because I knew the GP was just going to send me for a scan or give me painkillers. So physio has this advantage of credibility. We are evidence-based practitioners, and I think the latest APA campaign is something about, physio being a GP's trusted referrer. The thing that physio doesn't take into account and doesn't do really well is understanding where our competitive threats lie. A couple of recent conversations I've had with very future-based clinic owners, Steve, are around, I don't necessarily think exercise physiology is a threat, but exercise physiology and physios are really marketing ourselves towards the same client list, and we haven't become really good at separating what that should look like. What do I want in the next 10 years? I actually want physios to be the next GPs. I want, when someone has a cold or they're sick or they think they're unwell and they went to the GP, that old GP role is what I see physio being over the next 10 to 20 years. And the thing is, we can work with every other practitioner, but I believe we're the gatekeeper. We're the new gatekeeper, mate. We see the patient and we say, well, you need more strength. You need to work on these muscles. You need desensitization, acupuncture, Pilates. You need to see the GP or the specialist if this condition isn't resolving and there's pathology there. I reckon we're the new gatekeepers, mate.
How do you think the medical profession is going to go with that process?
Oh, AMA hates it. They're going to resist it. I don't think they can do much about it. So the reason I don't think, and they don't need to, they're busy enough. We have an aging population. GPs that I know don't like their clinics getting clogged up with people who don't need to be there. The old model of a GP is seeing every health condition. I think if there are, musculoskeletal pain or injury, if there's an area of that they can palm off to someone who's as expert as a physio. Like, face it, we do the best physical assessment diagnosis of soft tissue injuries of anyone, any profession. So if there's an element of that GPs can palm off, I think it's actually going to make their lives better. They're going to see more of the clients that they want to see, and they may be protective of that circle of patients right now. But we're going to have to involve them in the care. You know, what's just happened with this codeine thing? You know, if anyone needs more than paracetamol, they're going to need to go to the GP anyway, aren't they? You know, imaging rights. You know, I don't refer for many X-rays at all, but I refer for quite a few MRIs. And you know, if someone wants it cheaper, they're going to have to go to their GP. So, yeah, I think GPs might actually enjoy a slightly modified role in this whole circle of care, Steve. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really holistic way to, you know, start to look at things. I think, you know, traditionally that's where, you know, as a background in osteopathy, I think that's traditionally, you know, what they hoped osteopathy would be. And I think it's actually slowly gone more down the musculoskeletal route, I guess, than their sort of overall well-being that they initially intended to be.
Yes.
So I guess from your practice point of view, what do you need to do to set yourself up to be ready when this change sort of comes?
Okay, so the physio practices that I deal with are mindful of the fact that the owner of the clinic actually needs to be a clinic owner. So the first thing that I tend to teach in this evolutionary process of physio to clinic owner is similar to the young physio's belief, Steve, the owner almost becomes an owner by chance. So for those of you who've read Michael Gerber's E-Myth, they talk about an entrepreneurial seizure, which is, okay, I'm a physio working for someone else. I don't like the way they do X, Y, Z, so I'm going to go and open my own clinic and I'll do it differently. And Michael Gerber would speculate that what's happening is you just start that same cycle again, where then you become busy because you're the owner, you do a great job with your clients, everyone wants to see you, and the cycle happens again. So the first thing that I believe needs to happen, and this actually took me 10 years, Steve, to get into my own head. So I was a slow adopter, and my mentors will back that up, especially Paul Wright. If you ever chat to him, he'll say Nick Schuster's the slowest adopter I've ever had.
I'll have a chat to him on the next call.
But effectively, we need to undergo this mental transition from being a physio who treats all the clients as the leader of your clinic. Because if you hire people and you're the fullest clinician in your clinic, you're not doing your job. We need to adapt mentally to become, you have to be a business owner. So as a business owner, you've got to know how to find good people. You've got to know how to train them. You've got to know how to keep them. You've got to be able to strategically plan for your business to be profitable, because there's no use making revenue if your business isn't making profit. And, you know, I know so many business owners that I speak to, obsessed with revenue, no idea about profit, or they don't even value their profit. You know, marketing and sales, mate, we're all selling something, aren't we? And the quicker you get that through your head that you're a salesperson, the better. I will sell. If I believe in something, I will sell as much of it as possible to the people who need it, Steve, and I will train my people to do the same. So, you know, as a business owner, we need to learn leadership, we need to learn marketing, we need to learn sales, we need to learn strategic thinking and planning, and we need to learn team. And probably the final thing is, many clinic owners and physios will say to me, I'm scared of the numbers. I don't understand the numbers in my business. Well, if you don't understand the numbers, the only time you know your business is doing badly is if your bank account actually goes negative. Or not negative, it goes backwards, you know what I mean? So it was Paul 10 years ago that really kicked my ass enough for me to really become quite obsessed with my numbers. I track everything now. So when you track everything, you can pull some levers and strings in your business based on looking at the results, and you know where you need to go. So you talk about future-based thinking, and this podcast is all about future-based thinking. Numbers and predictions make it easy. They really do.
The more objective data we've got, the more, the better we can actually plan. And that's exactly the same process that we use with our assessment at MAT. And exactly the same reason I think you've nailed on the head why the 21st Century Physio podcast was created. I think as physios, we need to realise we need to wear many hats in our business, as you said. Now, the majority of my time is spent on the business systems, marketing, sales, communication, education. So we need to start to, develop, some of those other skills that we didn't learn at university, I think, which is great. You mentioned, the numbers are really important. What are some of the key numbers that you look at, and really need to know to make better decisions about your practice?
So there's a couple of different things that I do with my numbers, Steve. So I got to a point where I was tracking too much, and the detriment of that is I started to lose track of what was actually the most important for me. So I'd say the most important things that I do, I have a weekly dashboard. So I use the software PPMP, which I really like for its reporting capabilities. So I'll look at a snapshot of my practice from week to week, which is every clinician. So it's their total numbers, it's their total revenue, it's the number of new clients, and their patient visit average, which is, if you want to go there, I can later on, but I reckon it's the most important number in business. Um, so I compare that with a weekly P&L. So I like to know profit and loss for those of you who aren't familiar. I like to know how much I'm spending and how much we're bringing in from week to week. And then my wonderful practice manager puts that together for me with a little graph at the bottom, which I track on a monthly basis, and I compare with the historical last 2 months, which has got total revenue, cost of goods sold, which is payment for subcontractors, expenses and profit. So I'll track that on a weekly basis. Monthly, I do my marketing numbers. So I'm looking at where our new clients came from, how much that's costing us per new client from that acquisition source. My three main sources of new clients are in order. Referrals from existing clients, number one. Number two is Google. Number three is doctors. And my other strategies around Facebook with respect to clients are more for retention than new clients, but I do run some campaigns for my wellness site on Facebook if you want to talk about marketing later. So I'm tracking the marketing stuff monthly. And every quarter, I'm looking at all the big stuff. So I use Xero as an accounting program, which I love. It's very user-friendly. And I'm using Xero to basically compare my current 3 months with previous periods, how the financial year is going, and also compared with, I use a function called Xero Budget Manager. So between my business coach and I, we've worked out what should be an ideal budget for how much I should spend for each of the line items, like how much for marketing, how much for wages, admin, and rent. So in some months where you go over, you'll have like a little red thing come up and it says, oh, well, you've spent double your marketing budget. At least you become aware of that. So all this came about when 3 years ago, for the first time ever in my clinic journey, I'd upscaled, I'd bought a bigger clinic and my fixed expenses went way up. And what happened was I was actually seeing my bank balance drop slowly from month to month. And I said to my coach, what the hell's going on? That was when we found out that some of our PVAs, our patient visit averages for certain clinicians were lower than they should be. So we worked on that and we saw the numbers correspondingly swing upwards.
And so you mentioned the PVA. What's your ideal PVA for your people who work in your practice?
How high can it go?
Yep.
So industry average, health insurance data says about somewhere between 4 and 4.4. I have quite a few different practitioners in my clinic. So like we have a studio Pilates instructor, her PVA should be 100. Because basically, if she's doing a good job, she's got new clients who become week-to-week clients because they're working on wellness and fitness. We did some benchmarking, a group of clinic owners a couple of weeks ago, and my average clinic PVA is around 7 to 9. So basically, it's about double industry average. The insurers would hate that. It can be dangerously low, and I've seen graduates in the somewhere from 2 to 3.5 range, Steve. And what that means is, say if a graduate sees 50 clients a week, and if their PVA is 2, your clinic needs 25 new clients a week to fill that graduate's book. And that's very hard to do.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It's a whole lot. I reckon, realistically, a good goal or target to start with is you've got to be above the average. You've got to be above 5. And when I say above, there'd be clinics where people are getting, passive modalities and they're way above that. But, this has all got to be ethical. And the way that I see it as being ethical, Steve, is number one, we target hard clients in our clinic. We target people with chronic, persistent, severe. So these people tend to need a long period of treatment, and they tend to need to work with a lot of different modalities from soft tissue to strength and some psychology on the side as well. And one question I'm always asking clients, like I want to help my people to the maximum of my ability. So you would be surprised how many people come in for a bad back and they've got a sore neck and they haven't even mentioned it to you. And the number of clients over the years is, oh, I've just got this sore neck. It's like, well, let's do something about it. And they say something like, I didn't know physios did necks. You would be shocked at the things people say. So again, this comes from Michael Ridgway and the benefit of a holistic whole body assessment, looking at every problem they've got and what you can help them with. So, you know, the old me 10 years ago was trying to fix their pain or help them fix their pain. Sorry, I shouldn't have even said fix. The new me is helping them find out every different problem they've got, how they're linked, and how to optimize their health. And that's just a model that works really well for us in our clinic.
And do you find that differs? So you mentioned you have subcontractors. Do you also have employees at your clinic?
Absolutely. So the bulk of our people are employees, and we've got a handful of subcontractors who are a legacy of old models that I'm currently in the process of changing the way that they're employed. But yes, we still do have them. And sorry, you were wondering how does that philosophy change between the two? Does it differ?
Or do you find it harder to implement? Is there a reason that you've gone from a subcontracting model to more an employee-based model?
So traditionally, Steve, what I would do is my physios would all be employees, which they are, and I would hire massage therapists on a subcontractor agreement, and that was probably a little bit to do with my appetite for risk and also my insecurity about being able to fill them up, because the typical massage therapist agreement is, oh, we'll do 50-50, which means you bill them and they get half and you get half, which means when they're not full, you don't have to pay them. So I suppose one of my observations about hiring subcontractors is the tighter relationship you give them with your clinic in terms of employment, the more they're going to feel part of your team and the more they want to get on board as part of your team. So my subcontractors had always done a great job with their role, which was seeing their clients. But as soon as we had to do some stuff that was outside their role, so marketing, scared of that. In services and team training, I don't have time for that. I've got to go off to my other job and do some more of my core work. So, the benefit of an employee arrangement is we don't just want that person in a room 100% of the time slugging away doing consults. So they need training. We need to be working on their beliefs. They need to be forming relationships in the community, because my goal is for people to call my clinic and they don't ask for me. They ask for that other practitioner, which works really well. And they need to feel loved as well, mate. Like they want to feel like they're part of something bigger than just a transactional model of care where they're booked out 100% of the time.
So what do you give? What do you give people, or what to help their inspirations and aspirations in your clinic? What's that bigger picture target that you often focus on with people?
Yeah, so this is interesting because I've been developing this method for probably about 5 years now. A lot of the clinic owners who had bigger and better clinics than I considered mine to be 5 years ago, they focused on team goals. And team goals was something that interests me. So in our region, there's 50,000 people, and our goal is to help 25,000 of them by the 30th of June 2022. So I've said it here, so I've got to put it out there. Our current number is about 12,000. So we've got a really big team goal. We want to help this many people, and we can track that and measure that, which is great. We've got one of those thermometer things in our waiting room. You know how at school, how the kids are raising money and the red goes up. But what I found, Steve, is that it's hard for them to get on board with the team goals if their own values and needs aren't being fulfilled and met. So a model that I developed in conjunction with my business coach, which is now my Ultimate.Physio model, is based heavily around individual goals. And my main role within my clinic is helping my team members achieve their goals and dreams. So there's this model in business, which is the owner looks after the team, who look after the clients, who look after the business, who looks after the owner. So effectively what I'm doing is I'm understanding what is important to my team members, and that's their values. I'm taking them through a process to understand what they want in life, which is their goals. I'm assessing what's holding them back in their life, which is their beliefs. And as things change, I'm coaching them through that whole process. So sometimes you'll set a goal that's very big and you don't achieve it. Sometimes you smash it, but you should have set a bigger one. Sometimes it's not the right goal and you completely go off on a tangent. So actually, I'll grab it off the wall. This is my masterpiece. You can't see what it is here, but this is called Team Values. So this is a spreadsheet, Steve, that says team member, top 3 values, love language, 3 main goals 2018, goals January to March 2018. And then the final part is you can help me best by, which is how we can each help each other in our clinic. And this sits on the wall in our lunchroom.
Fantastic.
For 2 minutes, waiting for your coffee, you look at this, you work out how you're going to help your fellow team members at Scarborough Physio.
I love it. I think good to see another spreadsheet nerd there as well.
Excel, mate.
Yeah.
It's a constant journey, isn't it?
It definitely is. So it sounds like, you do use a fair bit of technology in your practice, and a lot of our listeners, love technology, and that's one of the reasons they tune in. You mentioned PPMP, you mentioned Zero. What are some other bits of software or other bits of technology you use in your practice that make your job easier?
Okay, so I'd say a lot of people that I speak to, Steve, tend to use a different one for internal communication. I used to be anti-tech. I was a bit of a dinosaur until I had a young physio start working with me. And he's like, oh, we can do this better. We can do this better. And it's like, yeah, let's just do it. So we use Skype for our internal messages. I know that some clinic owners use Slack and they use like project boards and things like that. I think we've found that we can get all we need to out of Skype. So effectively, we communicate between practitioners and between practitioner and admin, and we have groups. So I find that really helpful. In terms of our systems, so we have lots and lots of really detailed systems. So our business, if someone wanted to come and buy it, effectively what they're buying is this is how to do everything at Scarborough Physio and Health, and we do that on Google Drive. And we've been doing that for about 4 years now. So we're just refining, and one of my mentors who owns dental clinics who taught me how to do this has helped me understand the best way to do that. I want to develop a very simple video app for exercise. And so at the minute, I'm still in the dark ages. I write stuff on bits of paper. But one thing that I've found that I've been doing a lot more the last 2 to 3 years, Steve, is I'll just take someone's smartphone and I'll video them doing an exercise. So if someone out there knows how to build apps, contact me, because I want to create just a really simple little one that links the app to being able to record these videos in one place. So you go and look up, well, this is the exercises from session 1, session 2, session 3. What other technology? It's not really technology, but I do an absolute ton of videos. I'm massive on Facebook Live, so I'm a one-take video sort of guy. So an example is we had a big storm up here, and the lights and the air conditioning went off in our clinic, and no one knew how to fix it but me. And so I got the video camera out and videoed myself fixing it. That goes straight up in our systems. We've got a YouTube channel where we have internal team training systems. I would say my biggest tip from an internal marketing perspective that is technology, but again, it's Facebook, is a VIP Facebook group for your clients. So that's worked so well for us. We've got about 700 people of our best clients, and I'm posting in there and my team's posting in there, and we'll do little tips, videos. We put offers in there. We put social stuff in there. So I haven't yet progressed to Instagram and some of those other social medias, but yeah, Facebook's where I'm all over. Yeah, I'd say that's probably, they're the main technologies I use, and I'm quite, I'm hooked on one thing that I don't know if you've come across. Have you heard of AppSumo?
I definitely have, yes.
So I've got about 40 or 45 different apps that I'm working out how to integrate them around testing and measuring and tracking and product creation. And I'm addicted to AppSumo. It's like a drug. So it comes into my inbox and it's like, well, which app am I going to buy this week? So yeah, if you've never heard of AppSumo, yep, I think you're going to waste a lot of time, a lot of money on it. But the value of the future is your intellectual property, everything that's in your head, get it out and package it and put it in a format that people can see it. They can see the value, they can buy it. I created a fill your Pilates classes product the other day in one afternoon using Screencast-O-Matic, which is my screen capture software. I uploaded it to our membership site, which uses Optimize Press. I'm going to get it out there and sell it. For any of you people that are selling stuff to business, the best tool that I've found is something called Thrivecart. So Thrivecart is affiliate software. So for instance, if you're listening in the USA and you want to earn some money, Steve's products, my products, if you want to sell our product, we will let you and we will pay you a small amount to do it. I don't know. I'm sure you will, Steve, but I definitely will.
Definitely, yep.
Yeah, and you sign up as an affiliate. So you sell the Ultimate.Physio or you sell Movement Assessment Technologies product in another country, and you get a little cut of each one. So yeah, if you're in the business of selling products, you need Thrivecart or an affiliate software.
It's definitely it's all about who you know, building your networks, and making that work for you. Everyone wins from that as well. So I think that's really great tips there. So going ahead, tell us. You're talking about taking things out of your head and packaging it up. Tell us about some of your packages and your book that you've created. You've sort of obviously spent a lot of time and energy pulling all those thoughts out of your head and putting them down onto paper. It's a valuable resource for practice owners out there. I highly recommend you go out and get it. But do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about firstly your book, and then about some of the other packages that you offer and how you can help practice owners, build teams like you have?
Thanks, Steve. I'm just seeing if I've actually got a book beside me. Bugger. Anyway, so my book's called Becoming the Ultimate Physio, and basically it was born out of how I trained my people. So I really stepped up the training here in about 2014 and worked really hard on a couple of years worth of systematizing the training. And after that process, it was also clear in my head that I just decided to pump out a 200-page book with basically it revolves around 4 areas, Steve. So I talk about something called the Physio Success Quadrant, and it breaks private practice physio into 4 different areas, which are physio, obviously what you do in a consult. Most of us are pretty good at that. People, which is how to communicate with the people you're actually seeing and those within your circle and your clinic, your teammates. Business, which is all about the business of physio, but then the missing piece of the puzzle, which is you. So you is all about self-leadership and self-awareness and developing from a student to a physio, from a physio to a clinic owner. So I'm really proud of that book, and it sells really well here in Australia, and I'm just about to go international with it. So it's on my Ultimate Physio website, and we're bringing out a PDF copy, and I'm going to record it as an audio book as well. So that's the book.
They'll be able to hear your amazing dulcet tones on that audio book as well.
I used to hate my voice. I thought it was so nasal until I shot about 200 videos, and then I just got used to it. So
you're definitely desensitised, and I apologise to everyone out there listening to the podcast. Definitely one of those things you don't tend to like those first few times you hear it, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think you develop a certain amount of confidence in, if I don't speak, I don't get my message out there, Steve, and it's the same with you. You got to get over your own insecurities about everything. Like, I don't care how I look on video. I don't care if I stuff up. I'm genuine. This is who I am, and that's what people like. They don't like scripted and rehearsed. Where was I going with this? Sorry, bring me back to the question, mate.
We're talking about your packages and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I suppose where I was going in terms of my IP, I realised a couple of years ago that when I was producing this training stuff, I originally just did it for us here at our clinic. And quite similar to what you were saying to me before the interview, Steve, about how Matt developed, is I had something that people started asking me about, and people wanted this stuff. So they wanted training in the areas of leadership, personal development, and team. And because I've worked with some of Australia's best physio mentors, especially around the areas of marketing and systems, I thought, well, I didn't really want to compete with my mentors from a product perspective, because they taught me, and I thought that'd be an honourable thing to do. I decided to create some content that I thought filled gaps in the marketing and the systems side of things. So when I'd implemented marketing and systems with my clinicians and my support staff, Steve, and there was stuff they had trouble with, I created intellectual property to help train and coach them through that process. And so what that looks like, the suite of products I have is, the smallest thing you can buy from me is the book. The next level up you can buy is you can come to one of my 2-day courses. And I'm running the first one of those in 2 weeks here in Brisbane. And it's called Build a High Performing Team. But I'm going to continue to run that course both within Australia and overseas over the next few years. The next level product up from that is a completely online program, which is called Train the Ultimate Physio. So that's for you if you're a clinic owner and you still believe you're spending too much time on the tools and you're too busy and you need to learn how to get the most out of your team. So that's a 12-week online course, which has got 6 modules, but it's about 20 videos altogether. And there's activities and exercises that you do yourself and you implement with your team. So I'd say about 20 clinic owners through that program so far. And the main feedback that we're getting from them is that people are doing better, there's less turnover, and they're producing higher PVA. So the outcomes I wanted from my program, Steve, were happier teams, owners who are less stressed, and clinics that are more profitable and productive. And again, I want to try and prove this through research over the next few years. I've got some stuff I want to do in the research world in the future that you may have time to speak about, or maybe that's for another day. And then the highest suite that I'm offering is behavioural coaching, and that's something for the high-level clinic owners. Obviously, it doesn't come cheap, so it helps if you've got a clinic that's quite profitable and quite productive, and that's for me to work with clinic owners who've been through the book and they've been through the course and they've devoured our free products and free information and education on the Ultimate Physio group. And I haven't started coaching too many clients yet, but I've got a couple on the books who I'm starting to work with. And again, being a physio and wanting to be quite objective, what I want is to develop a body of proof that this is the outcome that my coaching gives. And some of the things that I'm looking at is profit, number of consultations the owner has to do, and a percentage of the clinic's profit that the owner brings in. So we want that number to drop, clinician PVA as well. And basically, I want to help you extract yourself from your business, not so you can sit on a beach somewhere, because not many of us want to do that forever, but so you can have the freedom to do what you want. Like after this interview, I'm going to go home and play with my 9-month-old baby because I can. I don't have to stay here in the clinic. So I'd love you guys as clinic owners to have that freedom to do what you want, but also do what you love.
It's definitely that thing that we all strive for, and I think you've definitely got some valuable messages, and I think people would have taken a lot from the interview today about how they can start to implement some of those strategies into their practice. If they want to hear more from you though, Ultimate.Physio is your website.
Yes. So if you're looking for the free stuff, type into physio, the Ultimate Physio, Physio Private Practitioners Group. And then if you're a clinic owner, type in Clinic Owners Mastermind Group. Or if you type in Ultimate Physio into Facebook, you'll find our page, and then you can find the groups off the page. The website has all the material, so if you're interested in reading my blog, it's on there. I do a blog post about every 2 to 3 weeks. They're very controversial, so if you want to get your knickers in a knot about something, then go and read the blog. Or if you're interested in the products, you go to Ultimate.Physio.
And I think, those free Facebook groups, I highly recommend everyone get on there. They're an invaluable resource. Free information from, great clinic owners all around the world, and probably one of the best groups that I'm a part of on Facebook as well, just for the interaction with, other people who are doing similar things to you out there in the world. All right, I think we'll get you back for another episode, Nick. Talk a little bit more about your aspirations with the research and where you can start to take some of this stuff.
On the same page, Steve, and I'm not sure exactly how to do it yet, but I've got some great ideas I'd like to speak to you about.
Definitely got some strategies in place. I think we can be mutually beneficial there. All right, thank you very much, Nick, the Ultimate Physio, for joining us on the 21st Century Physio podcast today. We look forward. If anyone has any questions or queries for Nick, head to his website, ultimate.physio. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Nick. Have a good day. See ya.